Slow Horses has returned to our screens this week with episode 1 of season 4, which was titled Identity Thief. The title of the episode was something that sat in my mind and was marinating away as I was watching the story unfold, and it made me question if the death that we saw occur was actually real or not. With the season getting off to an explosive start, quite literally, with 23 people being killed in an explosion and it being made out like River was killed by his grandfather, David. Could the two things be connected? The authorities made a point in saying that they weren't, but I feel there's definitely something sinister at play. So with that, let's jump into the video and break down all that there was to take away from the season premiere. Here is Slow Horses Season 4 Episode 1, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The Ending Explained. This whole episode was pretty much focused on two main things: the attack that happened on the Westacre shopping centre, and also the death of River Cartwright. Let's first start by looking at what happened with River. Right at the end of the episode, the final thing that we saw was that River was in a taxi in France with a passport for somebody called Adam Lockhead. As he was looking down at the passport, he said, "Who the hell are you?" This connects to the title of the episode, which was Identity Thief. The person who went into David's house was pretending to be his grandson, but why? That's the real question. Well, there was a really important line that Claude said to Diane in the early part of the episode where he said, "David was one of our finest, wasn't he?" This was when Diane informed him that David was responsible for killing his grandson. I feel in David's vulnerable state, his past is something that's most probably going to be catching up with him. And maybe somebody or an organization in the past that he was responsible for sending away has come back to haunt him and now wants to seek some kind of revenge. River did also mention that David felt as though he was being watched. This was something that River just pushed to the side, but maybe David actually has been. The resurfacing of an organization from the past would kind of connect to the terror attack that took place as well, as Robert Winter's motives for carrying it out was to take action against the organization that put him behind bars. The poignant line that he said was, "You will suffer for the years that I spent in prison." So that could be the common theme that connects both of these individual stories, being sent away and wanting to get payback. I felt like it was always kind of clear that River wasn't actually going to be dead, and this is for a couple of different reasons. The first was that it would have just been a bold move for the show to make. The second was that we didn't see the person that entered the house clearly. And the third was the fact that Lamb didn't seem upset in the slightest. I know that Lamb is an individual that doesn't really wear his heart on his sleeve, but you just know that if it was real, then there would have been a stronger reaction than that if it was actually River that was there. So this then begs the question on what is River doing in France? Well, it seems like he's doing his own operation in order to find out who it was that was in the house and why it was that they were after his grandfather. Is Adam Lockwood an alias that he's travelling under? Or is Adam Lockwood the person that broke into the house and he's managed to trace them to an organisation in France? I feel the events probably unfolded like this. Following David killing the person in his house, River then probably arrived there as he planned on doing after his conversation with Louisa. And then, after seeing what happened, he probably drove his grandfather to Standish's home because he knew that he could trust her. And then from there, he set out on his own personal mission. Louisa said a line about how it was now his time to look after his grandfather, as David was the person that looked after him when he was younger and nobody else did. So it feels like this is a grander scale version of that very thing occurring and him listening to Louisa. Now, if we move over to the attack that took place on the Westacre shopping centre, 23 people were killed and hundreds were injured following Robert Winters driving a car through the entrance. The actual motive of the attack isn't something that's well known yet, and the authorities don't truly know if it was just a one-off or if it was going to be the start of a wider system of attacks in the city. There was a line which was spoken, which was, "It makes you wonder what's next." The fact that this was spoken pretty much confirms that there's going to be more on the horizon. Otherwise, what would have been the point in mentioning that? With Winters saying, "You'll hear from my brothers soon," in the video that he released, it definitely implied that there were going to be more attacks on the way. And also, the fact that several officers were killed by the booby trap in Winters' apartment, this is definitely the beginning of a sinister chain of events where whatever organisation he's a part of clearly wants to make a statement. The common connection between both stories could be the sending away of somebody and the revenge that wants to be reenacted. But what if there is a larger twist and the same organisation that's after David Cartwright is also doing the attacks throughout the city? It could well be a possibility and something that I'm intrigued to see. My review of the episode. I thought this opener to the season was really strong. From a stylistic perspective, the opening few minutes was gorgeous on the eye, with the way that we were inside the chicken shop, to then having the camera so smoothly transition outside. And then we had the explosion taking place in the background. There was a sense of realism to that. Things like that happen when you don't expect it, and in that moment we really didn't expect anything to happen, so it was a scene that was constructed really well. The pacing of the episode was just fantastic too. It absolutely flew by whilst I was watching it. The two stories were established really well, and we were reintroduced to all of the characters in a way that felt natural, but didn't feel rushed at the same time. Gary Oldman as Lamb is shaping up to be an iconic role because his attitude, demeanor, and strong confidence is hilariously charming, and you can't help but see the scars and weight that he carries on his shoulders with every step that he takes. You just kinda like the guy because he feels so real and doesn't hold back in any way, shape, or form. I thought the introduction of Emma Flight was really good too. I think she's going to be a great character in the show, and her confidence and attitude is something that's already rivaling Lamb's. So I think there's going to be some clashing of heads, but a mutual level of respect and banter between the both of them. Something I'm excited to see. JK also seems extremely interesting too. We didn't hear him say a word other than when he screamed when Louisa accidentally threw something at him. He taps and seems a bit awkward around everybody, but I think it's going to take a few episodes for him to get out of his shell. But when he does, he'll probably have an important role to play. I'd also like to compliment the score in this episode. There were a few moments that really stood out to me when it came to the music. The first was the tension that was building in the background in the build-up to the scene in the bathroom. From the moment that we were first with David, there was an eerie drone, and you could tell that it was building towards something. I also feel like it matched the confused state of his mind and the visuals in that moment. Plus, the scene where River was talking to Louisa about his grandfather and how he was worried about him. The score was a lot softer, and it really leaned into the emotional edge that it wanted us to feel. It wanted us to sympathize with him, and I feel like the score really complemented the scene, which was focused on worry and care. This first episode laid down some real solid foundations for the season to build upon. There's not been a bad season of this show, and what's good about it is that there's not much else like it that's out there. Within the UK, you get your BBC and ITV police dramas that have just become a bit too formulaic in their approach, whereas Apple have really leaned into the genre and are thriving with this show. So I can't wait to see how this season's going to develop, why David Cartwright is in danger, and also which organisation Robert Winters is connected to, and how the lack of not knowing what's next is going to push the city into a paranoid, chaotic state. All I can say is bring it on. So, there you have it. Slow Horses Season 4 Episode 1 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on your favourite TV shows and movies broken down, then click on the card in the top corner, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. What did you think of the season premiere? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.